New management doesn't know what an employee does, fires them, regrets it. After lurking on this sub for a while, I figure it's time to share an experience of my own. I used to work for a company that supplied a range of man cave type items. Pool tables, darts equipment, arcade machines, pinball machines, you get the idea. A few years after I started working there, the company was sold, and the new owner wanted to shake things up. The company wasn't doing great financially, and changes definitely did need to be made, but the very first change the new owner made very nearly sunk the entire business. At this point, I shall introduce you to John, not his real name of course. John worked somewhere between 10 and 80 hours a week, turned up and left at completely random times, hardly ever spoke to anybody, and spent all of his time hidden away in a little room at the back of the warehouse. John was also the highest paid non-managerial employee. The new owner didn't like this, and within a few days of arriving had told John that he had to start working regular hours like the rest of his employees. John refused, and 2 weeks later John was fired. This was a mistake. You see, nearly 50% of the business's income came from the sale of pinball machines. However, almost none of that was from brand new machines. Almost all of it came from classic models that had been repaired and refurbished. John was the only reason why the company could do this. He was a pinball fanatic, had spent decades building up a huge contact list of other pinball fanatics all around the world, and had a damn near encyclopedic knowledge of these old machines. He had an uncanny ability to track down any model, no matter how rare, anywhere in the world. He could find machines that only had a handful made, several decades earlier, machines that never existed in our country, and even a few machines that never officially existed and were pretty much just rumors. When he got his hands on them, he knew everything there was to know about the electrics, the mechanical components. He was a skilled woodworker and could repair cases so well that you'd never know they were damaged. He was an amazing painter and could bring the artwork back to life, repaint sections that were completely missing, and get the machine looking like it had never been touched. His work hours were erratic because some weeks he might only have one machine in his workshop, but others he'd have a dozen of them. His pay was so high because the machines he worked on sold for anything from £5,000 to £30,000. After John was fired, and new orders started to pile up and old orders stopped being fulfilled, the new owner panicked. He ended up paying an electrical engineer to repair the internals, an artist to restore the artwork, and a carpenter to fix any damage to the exterior. Those three combined were costing the company more than John's wages, and the standard of their work was nowhere near what he could produce. That wasn't the biggest problem, however. He tasked one of the office staff with sourcing the machines that customers had requested, but it was impossible. Because of the reputation John had for being able to find rare machines, almost all of the customer inquiries we got were for rare machines. These weren't the kind of things you could find on eBay. They were the kind of things you could find because you knew a guy who knew a guy who knew somebody who owned an arcade in a different country 30 years ago and still had some old machines in his garage. Over the next 12 months, the pinball side of the business went from around 45% of the company's revenue to less than 10%, and the business overall continued to slide as the owner's cost-cutting methods in all areas caused staff to leave, customers to look elsewhere, and less than 2 years later the business closed for good. As for John, he's semi-retired and now just takes the occasional job when he hears about a machine that is particularly rare, or that he finds exceptionally interesting, and from around half a dozen machines a year he earns enough to enjoy a very comfortable semi-retirement.